Have you ever looked at someone and just known they were trouble in the best possible way? Like they had a kind of spark, not just confidence, but energy, like they were built for action. That's Aries. Whether you believe in astrology or not, there's something undeniably fierce about people born under this sign. They walk into a room and you feel it, that pulse, that fire, that unshakable presence. But here's the catch. A lot of people mistake that boldness for something they can play with. They try to test an Aries, push their buttons, challenge them thinking it'll be fun or maybe even easy. Spoiler alert, it's not. In fact, it's one of the fastest ways to find yourself in over your head, wondering how things escalated so quickly. Because Aries doesn't do slow. They don't wait for permission. They don't hope for victory. They go after what they want with full force, like their life depends on it. And when you challenge that kind of person, someone who lives in overdrive, you better be ready for the heat that comes with it. Today, on Secret of the Zodiac, we're not just exploring the Aries fire, we're warning you about it. We're going deep into 12 real reasons why challenging an Aries is something you'll regret forever. If you're new here, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this breakdown. Drop a like if you've ever had a run-in with an Aries and lived to tell the tale. And stay with us, because reason number 1 will show you exactly why Aries was born to win. And reason number 2 will make you think twice before stepping into their ring. Number 1, Aries were born to win. It's not an exaggeration. It's not a motivational quote. It's reality. You can see it in the way they play board games. You can feel it when they walk into a job interview. Even when they say, "I'm not even trying, don't believe it," deep down, they're always playing to win. Whether it's a game, a debate, a promotion, or even a flirtation. Aries has a way of turning everything into a challenge, but not the kind of challenge that wears you out, the kind that wakes them up, that fuels them. Winning for them isn't about ego, well, maybe a little. It's about proving that they can conquer whatever's in front of them. It's who they are. You know those kids in school who couldn't sit still, always raising their hands, always trying to be first, fastest, loudest, boldest? That's Aries energy. Now picture that kid grown up with ambition, drive, independence, and no time to waste. That's who you're challenging when you decide to go up against them. And the thing is, they're built for pressure. Aries thrives in intense situations. Where other people freeze, second guess, or stall out, Aries ignites. It's not just competition in the obvious ways either. Aries competes with themselves. They want to be better than they were yesterday, faster than they were last week, smarter than they were last year. So when you step up and challenge them, what you've actually done is enter their arena. And trust me, they've been training for this long before you showed up. A lot of people misread Aries' confidence. They see the way Aries walks, like they own the room. They hear how they talk, direct, sharp, fearless, and they assume it's just a front, but it's not. That fire is real. It's baked into their soul. Aries will challenge you, even if you didn't ask for it. So imagine how they react when someone dares to challenge them first. That's not pressure. That's motivation. And here's where it gets dangerous. Aries hates to lose. They might smile when they do. They might even say, "Good game." But inside, they're replaying every second. They're analyzing what went wrong. They're planning their next move, next time, next victory. Losing doesn't stop them. It fuels them. They come back harder, smarter, more focused. So unless you're prepared to bring everything to the table, challenging an Aries is a guaranteed way to get humbled fast. But that's just the beginning. Number 2, Aries has no fear. And I don't mean that in a cool t-shirt slogan kind of way. I mean it literally. Aries is ruled by Mars, the planet of war, of action, of pure, raw force. When something scares other people, Aries runs toward it. Let's break that down. Most of us, we think before we act. We weigh the risks. We hesitate. Aries doesn't. Not because they're reckless, though, yeah, sometimes they are, but because fear doesn't control them. In fact, fear often excites them. It's a challenge. It's something to conquer. They get a rush from standing at the edge and jumping. Emotionally, mentally, physically, Aries takes the leap. They'll start a business with no backup plan. They'll move to a new city on a gut instinct. They'll say, I love you first, even if it terrifies them. Because if something feels right, Aries won't sit around wondering what if. They act. That's their superpower. Decisive, instinctive action. Now think about what that means when you challenge them. You're trying to provoke someone who doesn't flinch. You're pushing someone who wants to fight. You're trying to intimidate someone who lives for confrontation. That's like trying to scare a storm with thunder. It doesn't work. In fact, it only makes the storm louder. Here's a true story. I once knew an Aries woman who, after being told she wasn't experienced enough for a leadership position, stayed late at the office every night for a month, studying every part of the business, mastering skills she wasn't even hired for. Then she came back, pitched herself for the role again, and won. Not because she was asked, not because she was invited, but because being underestimated fired her up. That's Aries in a nutshell. They don't sit quietly and hope you change your mind. They make you change it. Fear just doesn't stick to them. And when it does show up, they burn through it. Aries might feel fear, but they'll never let it stop them. And when someone is that fearless, they're nearly impossible to stop. That's what makes challenging them such a mistake. You're not just dealing with someone who's competitive, you're dealing with someone who doesn't recognize fear as a limit. So while you're hesitating, calculating, waiting for the right moment, Aries has already moved, already responded, already struck. Think of it like this. Aries is the one who kicks the door open while you're still deciding whether to knock. And that fearless nature, it doesn't only apply to ambition or competition. It shows up in conflict too. Disagree with them. They'll tell you exactly what they think. Try to argue, they'll hit back with full force. Aries doesn't hold back. Emotionally, verbally, physically. When the moment demands action, they become action. And once they've decided to engage, good luck stopping them. So let's be clear. If you challenge an Aries, you are not dealing with someone who wants to talk things out slowly or consider both sides. You are dealing with someone who sees life as a battlefield. And trust me, they've already sharpened their sword. They thrive on forward motion. They crave momentum. Standing still feels like death to them. So when you try to stand in their way, even for a second, you become the thing they have to go through. And they will go through it. Now, we've seen that Aries are born to win and that they have no fear. But what happens when that fiery drive meets resistance? What happens when someone tries to out-stubborn them? That's where things get even more intense. Because Aries may love a fight, but they hate to lose ground. And when pushed, they push back with something even more dangerous than fire or fearlessness: persistence. Let's talk about what that looks like. That's when reason number 3 kicks in. Aries never backs down. Let's be real. Most people will only push so far. When things start getting uncomfortable, they retreat. When the resistance gets heavy, they fold. Not Aries. The more resistance they feel, the harder they push. The more blocked they get, the more creative and relentless they become. You see, Aries doesn't just enjoy competition. They thrive on the idea of proving people wrong. It's not even about ego most of the time. It's about principle. Once they've decided that they're right, or that something matters to them, or that someone has underestimated them, it's game over. They'll go all in, full throttle, even if the odds don't look great. Backing down to an Aries feels like betrayal, not just to themselves, but to who they are. They're wired to finish what they start, no matter how long it takes. And yes, sometimes they start things they shouldn't. Sometimes they dive into battles that aren't worth fighting. But the idea of quitting mid-fight, that's unacceptable to them. It eats at them. It haunts them. It shapes them. I once heard an Aries man say this after losing a brutal business pitch. They might have won the deal, but I'll win the next 10. And he did. Not because someone gave him a second chance, not because he caught a lucky break, but because the loss lit a fire under him that would not go out. That's the Aries way. There's no giving up, only coming back harder. Which brings us to reason number 4. Aries comebacks are brutal. Let me explain. Most people, when they fall, they regroup, they reflect, they take their time. Aries? No. When Aries takes a hit, their recovery is fast, furious, and loud. They don't sulk in silence. They rise in flames. And they don't just aim to bounce back. They aim to dominate. It's almost theatrical. The Aries comeback is not just about doing better. It's about making sure everyone knows they're back and stronger than ever. It's about erasing the doubt, correcting the narrative, proving with absolute clarity that underestimating them was the worst mistake you could have made. And here's where it gets intense. The way Aries channels pain into power is unmatched. You knock them down, they don't cry, they convert. Emotionally, Aries alchemizes failure into fuel. If anger is a fire, Aries is the one holding the torch, deciding where to throw it. And when they throw it, they don't miss. You can see it in relationships. Break their heart. Sure, they'll hurt. They might even spiral for a minute. But then they transform. They hit the gym harder. They launch a project. They reinvent themselves. And when they come back around, they'll make sure you see the glow up. In conflict, it's even more raw. Aries has no interest in passive aggression. If you challenge them and win, temporarily, don't relax. That win was just the beginning, because they will come back, smarter, sharper, more strategic. They're impulsive, yes, but they learn from the fire. And every time they fall and rise again, they rise with more focus, more drive, more determination to never let that happen again. Here's the dangerous part. Most people don't see it coming. They think Aries burns out after a loss, that the fight is over. But Aries doesn't burn out. They burn through obstacles, through doubt, through fear. And when they return, you're not facing the same person you defeated. You're facing the upgraded version, the one that remembers everything you said, everything you did, every move you made. That's what makes Aries' comeback so terrifying and so legendary. They don't just bounce back to where they were. They break through to somewhere you can't reach. By the time you realize it, they're 5 steps ahead and not looking back. So if you think you've bested an Aries, if you think the conflict is over and done with, you've already made your next mistake, because they're not just coming back to win. They're coming back to bury the doubt, to erase the loss, to rewrite the ending you thought was final. And don't mistake their silence for surrender. Aries is loud, sure, fiery, bold, brash. But sometimes, when they go quiet, that's when you need to be most afraid. Because that silence, that's the build-up. That's when the comeback is being planned, crafted, perfected. The Aries you embarrassed might cry that night, but tomorrow, they're writing a new script. And in that script, you're not the hero. I've seen this play out too many times. Someone challenges an Aries, wins once, gets cocky, and then gets wiped out by the comeback. It's not pettiness, it's purpose. Aries doesn't believe in leaving things unfinished, and that includes vengeance, glory, redemption. Whatever the moment demands, Aries delivers. And the scary part? They don't always announce it. They don't always tell you the revenge arc is in progress. They'll just show up, fully rebuilt, and take everything back in one bold, decisive move. So, think twice before you count an Aries out. Think 10 times before you assume they're over it. Because while you're relaxing, they're rebuilding. While you're moving on, they're moving forward. And while you're underestimating them, they're becoming someone you can't compete with anymore. Now imagine this mindset in everyday life. In friendships, in work, in love. Aries isn't looking to play it safe. They're looking to make moves. So when you step to them, when you think, I can take them on, understand what you're walking into. You're facing someone who will outlast you in battle and outshine you in victory. Someone who doesn't know how to quit. Someone who sees loss as a temporary detour, not a dead end. So we've covered fire. We've covered fearlessness. We've covered the refusal to back down. And we've broken down the brutal nature of the Aries comeback. But what happens when the passion becomes rage? What happens when that energy boils over instead of just burning through? That's where things start to explode. And that's exactly what we'll get into next. When we talk about Aries, we talk about fire. We talk about motion, drive, and unstoppable energy. But what happens when that fire gets out of control? What happens when passion turns into explosion? That brings us to reason number 5. Aries has a temper, and they use it. Now here's the thing. Every zodiac sign gets angry. Every person, for that matter, has a breaking point. But Aries doesn't wait for the breaking point. Aries feels everything in real time. unfiltered, uncut, and unafraid. And when they're pushed too far, when someone crosses that invisible line in the sand, their reaction is instant, volcanic, and unforgettable. You'll never have to wonder if an Aries is upset with you. They won't sit on it. They won't journal about it and bring it up 6 months later. They'll let you know, in the moment, with words that burn and eyes that cut straight through you. Aries doesn't simmer, they erupt. But don't confuse this with immaturity or drama. Their temper isn't always about chaos. Sometimes it's about justice. Aries sees the world in high contrast, right and wrong, fair and unfair, loyal and fake. And when they feel violated, disrespected, or dismissed, their fury kicks in fast. And trust me, it's not something you want aimed at you. This rage can show up in different ways. For some Aries, it's loud and fiery, slamming doors, sharp words, intense eye contact. For others, it's a quiet storm. Their energy shifts, and you feel the heat without a single word spoken. But make no mistake, once the anger is triggered, everything changes. They may forgive you later. They might even laugh about it down the line. But in that moment, you've lit a fire you probably can't control. I've seen Aries cut people off mid-sentence just to correct them. I've seen them walk out of meetings, parties, even relationships the second they felt disrespected. There's no warm-up, no calm warning. Aries goes from 0 to 100. And if you're not ready for that emotional detonation, you're going to be left spinning in the ashes. And here's the catch. Aries doesn't always want to explode. But when they do, it's because something deep inside them has been ignited. Something tied to identity, pride, principle. It's never random. It's real. That temper, it's not about power. It's about truth. Their truth as they see it. And challenging that truth is like kicking a hornet's nest. You might win the first step, but once they're angry, good luck getting out clean. Still, the Aries temper, as intense as it is, isn't their only weapon. In fact, it's often just the opening act. What follows after the fire? That's where things get even more dangerous. Enter reason number 6. Aries uses their confidence as a weapon, and they wield it better than most people use logic. Think about it. Confidence is powerful. It changes the way people perceive you. It shapes how you enter a room, how you speak, how you argue, how you take up space. Now imagine that level of self-assurance in the hands of someone who already believes they can't be stopped. That's Aries. They don't ask for validation. They don't wait for permission. They walk in like they own the place, and somehow by the end of the day, they do. Their energy is so commanding that even when they're wrong, people hesitate to challenge them. Why? Because Aries makes you question yourself. That's what makes their confidence dangerous. It doesn't need to be justified. It just is. And that kind of certainty is hard to argue with. You might come prepared with data, strategy, logic, and planning. Aries shows up with raw instinct and presence, and wins. Because while you're still overthinking your next point, they've already convinced the room that their passion means they're right. And this confidence, it's contagious. It pulls people in. It makes them want to follow, even if they don't fully understand the mission. That's why Aries is so often found in leadership roles, formal or informal. They take charge, not because they crave control, although yeah, they kinda do, but because they believe they can. And when someone truly believes they're capable, that belief creates momentum. People feel it, they buy into it, they rally around it. But here's where it gets even more intense. Aries doesn't just believe in themselves when things are going well. Their confidence is most powerful when everything's falling apart, when everyone else is panicking. Aries is the one who steps forward and says, "We've got this." And even if they don't have the answer yet, they'll find it, because they decided they would. In that way, their confidence is like armor. It protects them, pushes them, fuels them, but it's also a sword. And when they're challenged, when they're called out or doubted, that sword comes out, sharp, fast, and aimed at whatever or whoever dared to question their fire. So when you challenge an Aries, remember this. You're not just going up against a loud voice or a hot temper. You're facing someone who's emotionally armed with self-belief so strong, it bends reality around them. They make you feel like they're right, even if all the facts say otherwise. And that psychological edge, that's not luck. That's years of moving through the world with no seatbelt and surviving. It's charisma mixed with certainty, lit on fire. It's the kind of confidence that turns arguments into performances. And Aries always steals the show. That's why you have to think twice before engaging. Their temper might burn you, but it's their confidence that breaks you. You'll find yourself on the defensive, stumbling to prove your point, while they stand calm, centered, and utterly convinced that you are the one who doesn't get it. It's infuriating. It's unfair. It's Aries. And the scary part? Half the time, they are right. That gut instinct, that bold move, that refusal to hesitate, it works for them over and over again, which only makes them more confident, more sure, more unstoppable. Now combine all that, the explosive temper, the unshakable confidence, and imagine what happens when someone tries to control Aries, to tell them what to do, to lead them. You already know where this is going. Reason number 7, Aries takes everything personally. You might not mean anything by that offhand comment, that sarcastic jab, that little challenge you tossed into the conversation. But to an Aries, that's a strike, a hit, a call to arms. See, Aries doesn't play it cool. They don't shrug things off. They're not wired to let stuff roll off their back. They live in their emotions. And when something feels like an attack, whether it was intended or not, their defense system kicks in instantly. Now you might say, but I was just joking, or I didn't mean it that way, and that's fine, but it won't undo what they felt. Aries responds not to your intention, but to the impact. And when that impact touches a nerve, the fire gets lit. That's because Aries ties their identity to everything they care about. Their opinions, their style, their work, their relationships, their decisions. So when you question any of it, they don't hear a discussion. They hear a challenge. They hear, you're wrong. And Aries doesn't sit still when they're being told they're wrong. They react hard. Now here's where it gets even more intense. That personal filter doesn't just apply to insults or conflict. It applies to everything. Praise them and it hits deep. Ignore them and it cuts even deeper. Aries is built to feel first, think second, and that raw, immediate emotional access, it's part of what makes them magnetic and explosive. This is why challenging an Aries can spiral so quickly. You may think you're offering constructive feedback. They hear criticism. You may think you're disagreeing. They feel disrespected. And once they've taken something personally, it becomes real to them. It becomes a fire they have to either extinguish or burn everything down around it. I once saw an Aries walk away from a 10-year friendship over a single comment that didn't sit right. It wasn't about ego. It was about principle. It was about feeling unseen, unheard, unvalued. And when that feeling hits, Aries doesn't always wait for apologies or explanations. They move, they cut, they act. This doesn't mean Aries is fragile. Far from it. It means they care, deeply, fiercely, unapologetically. And that depth of feeling is a double-edged sword. It makes them incredible friends, lovers, allies, and absolutely merciless enemies when hurt. So when you challenge them, don't just prepare for a debate. Prepare for a war they've made personal. A war that in their eyes isn't about being right or wrong anymore. It's about standing up for who they are. And Aries never loses themselves in silence. But that brings us to something even more crucial. Because when you challenge an Aries, you're not just pressing buttons or triggering emotions. You're trying to lead someone who was born to take charge. Which leads us into reason number 8. Aries doesn't follow. They lead. Let that sink in. You can't boss them. You can't micromanage them. You definitely can't suggest things in a condescending tone and expect them to smile and nod. Aries has an innate sense of direction. And when they believe in something or in themselves, they don't want to be told how to move. They just move. They don't need a map. They are the map. Even in group settings, family, work, friend circles, Aries naturally assumes leadership. It's not always a conscious grab for power. It's instinct. When something needs to get done, they take charge. When nobody's making a decision, they step up. When there's a vacuum of energy, Aries fills it. This is why so many people turn to Aries in times of chaos. They're quick, decisive, assertive. They don't second guess. And when they speak with that fireback confidence, people listen. But if you try to manage them, especially if you do it poorly, that same fire will be directed at you. Aries doesn't tolerate being controlled, ever. Even if they respect you, they'll challenge you the moment they feel boxed in. They want to collaborate, not submit. They'll take direction when it's earned, but never when it's forced. And if you try to assert dominance just to prove a point, they'll see right through it and take you down for even trying. So if you find yourself trying to compete with an Aries in a leadership role, don't expect them to politely move aside. They don't yield. They don't dim their light to make others comfortable. They own their space. And if you challenge that, get ready to be outshined, outworked, and outlasted. I've seen this happen in professional settings where an insecure boss tries to tame an Aries employee. Spoiler, it never ends well. Aries either storms out and builds their own empire or stays just long enough to expose the weakness in the system. Because Aries doesn't just lead, they rebuild everything around them to make it more efficient, more exciting, more aligned with their vision. They're innovators, starters, movement makers. They need to be in motion. And being told to sit still, to wait their turn, to stay in their lane, that's like telling a wildfire to burn politely. It's not going to happen. It's not in their nature. So what happens when someone does try to lead them? When someone thinks they can one-up or dominate Aries' energy? The reaction is swift and sometimes brutal. Aries won't just resist, they'll revolt with words, with action, with a bold exit or a public showdown. They'll challenge you back until either you fall in line or they walk away completely and never look back. That's the price of leading with force instead of respect. Because if you want Aries on your team, you have to earn it. You have to meet them in passion, in honesty, in strength. Otherwise, they'll see you as a block, not a partner. And once Aries sees you as an obstacle, there are only two options: get out of the way or get run over. Now think about this. Someone who feels everything deeply and takes things personally. Someone who refuses to follow and is born to lead. Someone who's always moving forward, head first, with full fire. What happens when that person is told to wait? Or worse, when someone tries to slow them down? That's where we're headed next. Reason number 9. Aries has no patience. None. And not in a, ha ha, I'm a little impatient kind of way. We're talking about real-time frustration. Aries is wired for speed, urgency, and momentum. They don't like to sit with things. They don't want to wait for the perfect moment. They create the moment because to them, hesitation is failure in slow motion. Imagine trying to explain bureaucracy to an Aries. Imagine telling them, just give it a few weeks, or we'll get there eventually. You'll see their soul leave their body. They might nod, but inside, they're screaming. Because Aries lives in now, not later, not someday, not when everything is perfect. This can show up in small ways, like losing it in slow traffic, snapping at a long-winded explanation, or starting 5 projects before finishing one. But it can also show up in massive life decisions. Aries will quit a job on the spot if it's wasting their time. They'll walk away from a relationship that feels stagnant. They'll burn down a situation just to feel the thrill of motion again. You see, Aries doesn't fear failure nearly as much as they fear stagnation. To them, standing still is spiritual death. Waiting too long means missing the chance to act while the fire is hot. And once that flame dies out, Aries loses interest, fast. That spark they bring to life, it has to be fed constantly by challenge, risk, motion. So what does this mean when you challenge them? It means if you're dragging your feet, stalling, avoiding, being passive, Aries is already done with you. They may not say it right away, but mentally they've moved on. Because nothing frustrates them more than people who refuse to act. This can be dangerous in conflict. If you're someone who likes to process things slowly or think things through, Aries will either steamroll you or leave you in their dust. They want resolution, action, and clarity immediately. And if you can't give them that, they'll assume you're not serious, not capable, or not worth the effort. And it's not just about what you do. It's about what they expect from themselves. Aries holds themselves to the same urgent standard. If they want something, they'll go after it now, not when it's convenient. This is why they're often so successful, because while others are making pros and cons lists, Aries is already in motion. But that urgency, it has a shadow side, which brings us to reason number 10. Aries is an emotional volcano, and when they erupt, you feel it. Let's be real. Aries isn't subtle. They don't do emotional poker faces. They don't hide how they feel behind vague comments or fake smiles. What you see is what you get, and what you get is intense. They love with their whole chest. They fight with their whole spirit. They react from their gut, and because they feel everything at full volume, their emotional explosions can be overwhelming for anyone who isn't built the same way. Now, this isn't about Aries being unstable. It's about being unfiltered. Their emotional radar is on 24/7, and they don't know how to dial it down. Joy, huge. Love, consuming. Anger, immediate. Pain, visible. Every emotion they experience is lived out loud, sometimes before they've even processed it themselves. And when those emotions collide, especially anger and pain, it turns into something powerful, explosive, raw. Think about the volcano metaphor. It's beautiful from a distance, majestic even. But when it erupts, it changes landscapes. It reshapes everything. That's what Aries does when they're emotionally triggered. They don't throw quiet shade. They throw flames, they raise their voice, they slam doors. They tell you exactly how you made them feel, and it won't be edited for your comfort. And here's the kicker. A lot of people misread this. They think Aries is just being dramatic, that it's just a phase, that they'll get over it. But when an Aries explodes emotionally, it's not random. It's the buildup of things they held in longer than you realized. Because for all their outward fire, they do try, for a time, to keep the peace. They do try to understand, to forgive, to look the other way. But once they've hit their limit, it's done. There's no turning it off. This can be especially hard in relationships. Aries wants intensity, passion, honesty. They don't want surface-level connection. They want the kind of bond that feels alive. So when things go cold, when partners go distant or passive, Aries starts to churn. And if that churn is ignored, it erupts. And when it does, Aries doesn't hold back. They'll say what others are too polite to say. They'll call out the thing no one else will name. And yes, sometimes they'll regret the way they said it, but they won't regret saying it. Because to Aries, honesty, even when it burns, is better than fake peace. But the eruption isn't just for show, it's release. Aries has to get it out. Once they do, things often settle. They don't hold on to grudges the way other signs do. They let it burn, then they let it go. Still, if you're on the receiving end of that eruption, it can feel like being hit by a truth bomb at full speed. And if you challenge them to get to that point, if you lit the fuse, there's no walking it back. So when you challenge an Aries, you're not just poking at logic or pride. You're tapping into a storm of feeling that's ready to surge at any moment. And when it does, it won't just make a point, it will leave a mark. Now think about that combination. Zero patience, full emotions. Someone who can't stand still and won't hide how they feel when you try to slow them down. What happens when someone underestimates that energy? When they assume Aries is too much, or try to tone them down, control them, contain them? Let's just say Aries has an answer for that, and it's not silence. Reason number 11. Aries has relentless energy. This is the part no one really prepares for. You might match an Aries in the moment, maybe even hold your own in a single argument or outshine them in a single event. But Aries isn't playing the short game. They bring the same intensity to everything, all day, every day. No off switch, no chill mode. Imagine running a sprint. Now imagine doing that all the time. That's Aries. They wake up with ideas. They go to sleep mid-conversation. Their mind doesn't rest, and neither does their body. You'll find them jumping between projects, friendships, plans, passions, not because they're scattered, but because their system runs at high speed by default. They need movement. They need stimulation. And when you challenge them, they channel all of that energy into proving their point, defending their ground, or straight up demolishing yours. This is the real danger most people don't see coming. You might be calm and steady, pacing yourself. Aries is a fireball on a rocket fuel. And if you think you can wear them down with time, you're in for a surprise. You're the one who's going to burn out first. Even when they're tired, Aries runs on sheer willpower. That inner fire doesn't dim. It adjusts. They might take a breath, maybe a short step back, but don't mistake that for rest. It's reload. And once they're back in motion, they come at you even faster. This is why so many people feel overwhelmed in conflicts or rivalries with Aries. It's not that Aries is always more skilled or smarter or more strategic. It's that they just keep coming, like a storm that doesn't run out of thunder. And it's exhausting. Not for them, for you. They'll keep arguing after others have given up. They'll keep building after others have gotten bored. They'll keep caring, even in anger, long after others have detached. Because when something matters to an Aries, they don't stop. This is also why they often succeed where others don't. While others procrastinate, overthink, or rest, Aries acts. It's their default mode, and that relentless drive, it's what pushes them over the finish line, over and over again. So if you challenge an Aries, don't just ask yourself if you can win the battle. Ask yourself, can you even last the whole war? And even if you somehow do, you're still not safe. That brings us to reason number 12. Aries always thinks they're right, and sometimes they actually are. Let's pause here for a second. Yes, we all know someone who thinks they're right all the time. It's usually frustrating, annoying, ego-driven. But Aries takes it to another level. They don't think they're right because they want to win. They think they're right because they feel it in their bones. Aries has this unshakable internal compass. It's instinctual. If something feels off, they'll call it out. If something feels true, they'll defend it like it's gospel. They don't always have all the information, but they have conviction. They trust themselves fiercely. So when you challenge an Aries, you're not just debating facts. You're confronting someone who believes their truth is the truth. And if you can't back your side with fire, with confidence, with presence, they'll steamroll you with theirs. But here's what makes it complicated and kind of scary. Sometimes Aries is right. That bold instinct, that gut reaction, it often leads them to the truth faster than logic alone. It's like their intuition is turbocharged. They spot patterns, sense people's energy, call out dynamics that others are too afraid to name. So when they say something with full conviction, and it turns out to be accurate, it cements their belief that they should always trust themselves. And the more that happens, the less they listen to doubt, or other people, or warnings. This is where you really have to think before stepping into a confrontation with them. You might come armed with stats, proof, receipts, and still lose the argument. Not because Aries won't hear you out, but because if your logic doesn't feel right to them, they'll reject it. They don't process things in steps. They process in surges. Their mind connects dots emotionally, energetically, and fast. So if you try to debate slowly, carefully, without passion, they'll eat you alive. Because to win with Aries, you don't just need to be correct. You need to be convincing. And good luck out-convincing someone who believes they were born to lead. Now, does this mean Aries is always right? Of course not. They make mistakes like anyone else. Sometimes huge ones. But even when they're wrong, they'll fight for their version until they're given something that breaks through their force field. And that's not easy to do. So when you challenge them, prepare for a wall of passion, clarity, and conviction that feels unshakable. You'll question yourself. You'll lose track of your points. You'll start to wonder if maybe they're right after all. Because Aries doesn't ask for the win. They own it. And if they are right, if they've called it before anyone else saw it coming, they won't rub it in. They'll build on it. They'll ride that wave into the next big decision, the next fight, the next challenge. Always moving forward, always believing in their own fire. So now, we've seen every angle of Aries in a challenge. The fire, the force, the emotional volatility, the pride, the passion, the leadership, the fearlessness. And we've ended here with relentless energy, and a mind that never stops believing it's already 10 steps ahead. If you're still thinking of challenging an Aries after all this, either you're fearless or you just don't know what's coming. But don't worry. In our final chapter, we'll bring it all together and give you one last shot to walk away before the flames reach you. So now you know, not just what Aries is, but what it means to challenge one. We started this journey with a question. What happens when you step into the fire? And over the course of 12 hard-hitting reasons, the answer became more and more clear. If you mess with an Aries, you're not stepping into a light debate or a casual disagreement. You're throwing yourself into a storm of raw instinct, endless drive, and explosive truth. Let's recap, not just to refresh, but to feel the full weight of what you've just walked through. Number 1, Aries was born to win, not just to try, not just to play, to win, and they will do whatever it takes to get there. Number 2, they have no fear. They don't flinch. They don't overthink. They just act fast and hard. Number 3, Aries never backs down. If it's a fight, they're in it. If it's a challenge, they won't walk away until it's settled. Number 4, their comebacks. Brutal. You knock them down. They don't just get back up. They make sure you remember why you knocked them down in the first place. Number 5, that temper, it's real, it's fast, and it burns. Number 6, their confidence isn't decoration, it's a weapon, one they've trained with since birth. Number 7, they take everything personally, even when you didn't mean it, especially when you did. Number 8, they don't follow, they lead. And if you try to lead them, you better be twice as strong or twice as smart. Number 9, Aries doesn't do patience. They want it now, and if you're in the way, they'll clear the path themselves. Number 10, their emotions are volcanic, unfiltered, powerful, impossible to ignore. Number 11, their energy is relentless. They don't stop. They don't slow down. They don't burn out. You do. Number 12, they always think they're right, and when they are, you'll never hear the end of it. Each of these reasons paints a part of the bigger picture. Aries isn't a sign, it's a force. And when you challenge that force, you're not just picking a fight, you're waking up something that won't go back to sleep until it's had its say. But here's the twist. This isn't just a warning, it's a reveal. Because Aries doesn't hide, Aries doesn't sugarcoat. And honestly, that's what makes them powerful. They might scare you, they might exhaust you, but they inspire too. They remind us what it looks like to go all in, to speak our truth, chase our passion, stand our ground. No apologies, no filters, no hesitation. So whether you are an Aries, love one, fear one, or just survived one, you know the truth now. You know why you don't challenge an Aries unless you're fully prepared to handle the fire. Now, if this episode hit home, if you recognize someone or maybe even recognize yourself, here's what I need you to do next. First, hit that subscribe button right now. Join our Secret of the Zodiac family. We drop real talk about every sign with no fluff, no filters, and zero sugarcoating. If you love astrology that's real and raw, this is your place. Second, give this video a like, not just because you enjoyed it, but because it helps us grow, reach more people, and keep producing content that actually means something. Every like sends a signal that this message matters. Third, and this one is big, drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever challenged an Aries? Did you survive it? Are you the Aries in someone's warning story? We want your real stories, your wild moments, your hard-earned lessons. Go deep, go off, flood the comment section. Let's make this one of the most talked about Aries videos on YouTube. And finally, if you truly believe in what we're building here at Secret of the Zodiac, and you want to support this kind of honest, daily content, please consider hitting that super thanks button. Yes, it's a donation. Yes, it helps cover the insane hours of research, writing, editing, recording, and uploading. But more than anything, it helps us keep showing up every day. For you, every dollar goes back into making this channel bigger, better, and bolder. We're not backed by big companies. We're fueled by our audience, by you. So if this episode gave you something real, a truth, a laugh, a memory, or maybe even a warning you wish you had earlier, show some love with a super thanks. Even a small gesture makes a massive difference. Because the truth is, these videos don't just make themselves. They take time, energy, and fire. And with your help, we'll keep the flame burning strong. We've got more zodiac breakdowns coming, more real talk, more signs to explore. So if you like this ride, buckle up. The next one's already on the way. Until then, remember, Aries doesn't wait. Aries doesn't play. Aries shows up. Just make sure, next time, you're not the one standing in their path.